you would just tell everybody a little bit about yourself, and then I'm going to ask you all my questions.
Sure. And Dennis, thank you very much for having me on this very important and very momentous activity. With reference to quantum computing, and I just after you mentioned it, I looked at the NF site of the program. It really looks so impressive. Also because it combines so many aspects. It's kind of holistic in nature, and you really need, that's always been a particular interest of mine in combining different sciences, different disciplines. Yeah, yes. Because no single discipline says the answer to the so, well, as you were saying, I was at Pacific Northwest National Laboratory before coming here to Qatar. I was at PNNL for 11 years, and I did a variety of projects. I work on a variety of domains, but mostly always from the data analytics and machine learning point of view.
One of the things that, again, in doing my research, it looked as if quantum techniques might facilitate enhancing solar cell efficiency. What are some of the benefits and how do you think that might be a way that we could reap the benefits and exploit quantum capabilities?
Well, what quantum computing is very good at is basically at processing huge amounts of data because of extreme parallelism, and that has put great application in energy in two diverse domains. One is on the creation of materials, because when you create new materials, for example, new nanomaterials or new solar cell, materials, you all do this in a computational environment, essentially simulating properties of atoms, for example, that to understand what are their conductivity potential and so on and so forth. I'm not a material scientist, so I know this from talking to my colleagues. And one problem when you do the simulations is that classical computing is not very good at it, because the number of so it really can be fantastic, in helping along the creation of new material for solar energy, but also for a lot of. So another a very upcoming and disruptive technology is what's called sometimes retina technology, and that's basically technology that allows the transmission of electricity wireless at distance, and that has great applications for solar, like photovoltaic panel, because essentially you can have your panel somewhere and it can transmit, anywhere you want, and the technology, theoretically, a lot of advancement have been made, but the major limitation there is the creation of a nanomaterial that has the conductivity, proper conductivity. It's the same as radio, but radio has a very low frequency. Here you need a huge frequency, and again, quantum computing can be very helpful in helping along this thing. The other area of energy where quantum computing can be extremely useful is the processing of huge amounts of data for optimizing energy use. And this can be also crucial, to ensure the safety of the grid, because, in the grid, basically, you have a balance in terms of voltage and current. So you can go a little bit up, you can go a little bit down, but if you, and that's about 5%, 6%, if you go below or above those limits, the system crashes with tremendous consequences, as we know. And it happens all the time. One of the challenges here is that you have to make decisions extremely quickly. We're talking about nanosecond, less than a second. And there is a new technology, it's called phasor measurement units. And these are basically devices that you put on the network, and it measures property of the electrical of electricity, like current and voltage.
Oh, wow.
In microseconds. I mean, you get about 60 to 90. The technology people use 60 to 90 readings per second. Now you can imagine that devices spread across all the network that give you how much data.
That's right. That's a lot of data that you've got to manage and you've got to analyze very quickly. Yes.
So we do research. This is another area in which I do research. Basically, essentially generating the data and then using the data to classify and forecast faults or disturbances. That's extremely useful. But again, there you have you're getting data at the kind of microsecond level. You need to process them at the microsecond, otherwise
or faster.
Good, say, oh, great, I collected data in a microsecond, but I'm going to get the answer in an hour. Oh, forget it, right? So that's another important area, of essentially data crunching. And it's, since we had the interaction and you asked me to talk about this, I actually been thinking that we should start a program on quantum computing, because there are a lot of other people who lead programs in the institute about material science. I could partner up with, and we could certainly use it, because we do active research in facial measurement units. It's called synchrophasers, and that really needs big iron type of power. So quantum computing would be fantastic for that.
Ah, okay. Now, one of the areas that and again, this has caused me to just do all kinds of looking, was from the standpoint of the actual internet itself. The fact that it generates a great deal of heat, it uses a lot of energy, and the prospects of quantum making it the network itself much more efficient. And generate less heat, so that it is a lot more efficient. How could that be accomplished? And is that one of those things that you see would be near term, or is that one of those things that we're down the road in doing? Because that, to me, just seems like it would be phenomenal.
Well, the environmental crisis is now, we are already starting to see the consequences of global warming.
Right. Sure.
It's anything that can be done to relieve to relieve the problem, is welcome. And as we were discussing before, we reference, for example, to blockchain, clearly with reference to the use of computers to address the consensus mechanism of blockchain, and particularly, proof of work, which is extremely computing intensive. That will have a fantastic reduction. I mean, you can do you can do what it takes you a week to do it on a classical computer. You could do it, in a couple of minutes or even less on a quantum. So just imagine
the energy that would be saved, and the electricity, and just the efficiency would be phenomenal. And then we could share that energy much more effectively to those who really need it. Yeah.
At the moment, even though the cryptocurrencies are still kind of on the sideline, they're quickly making it into the mainstream. But even as it is, the amount of energy that is being consumed is phenomenal. They have this big data center in Iceland or something. When it's very to avoid having to cool them down. So it's so that is going to be really phenomenal. And any other aspects of computing, wherever there is a huge amount of data. Of course, quantum computing is not one key for all solutions. There are problems for which classical computers are good or even better in some sense, or there is nothing to be gained by engaging a quantum computer. But whenever there is a huge data crunching, that always going to be, an advantage in quantum computing with ensuing consequences in terms of environmental benefits. I think one of the most, it's in the area of social simulation, very special interest in that because, there's a lot of things that we could make better in terms of understanding. And I'm sure, in the research that you do, you address the same, and that's like 360 degrees, whether you're looking at cybersecurity, whether you're looking at health, energy, you always gain incredible amounts of knowledge by generating foresight. And, by generating foresight, you need to essentially imagine all possible scenarios.
Yes.
And that's something that classical computers are very bad at, whereas quantum computing is perfect. I mean, you have, imagine a 500 or 1,000 qubit quantum computer. I mean, you could.
We can solve the world. We can solve problems. Yes. Yes.
And, it's not, if you think about it in terms of what's possible, to build such a computer, we would have to generate, like essentially 1,000 photons to get the qubit, which, it theoretically is not, a very difficult thing, although when you actually try to do it, there are a lot of challenges. So I think, to put it in a single word, the generation of foresight through social simulation is, and then the next important thing is the optimization, which is more about, I think these two things put together would be, and to a certain extent, social simulation is a form of optimization, in some sense. And I think we can make our lives and the life of you can make humanity, much better because we would avoid making certain mistakes. So,
if you had to talk to young people today, and we want to get them into energy efficiency, and that is looking at that as a career path, and with quantum, because we know that's where everything is going. How would you advise them? What are the kinds of approaches, study areas that they might find of interest? We want to cultivate that interest and nurture it. So what would you suggest? And it doesn't have to be a course, it doesn't have to be this, but how would you suggest young people, because we know Gen Z, they are just comfortable with technology. So just anything that either with technology or developing or doing is innovative, what would you suggest?
Well, on the technical side, obviously, the learning about the math, the quantum math. That's but that is math that has been around for a long time that we use every day.
Yes.
So it's it's linear algebra and vector algebra. These are things that we do, especially if you do machine learning. You do a lot of it. So so definitely we need that. But we need also an understanding about what problems we could solve that we have not thought of solving because we don't have the hardware to do so. So it's an exploration about what's possible. It's science fiction is very good because although in a very fictitious way, it lets you imagine things. The whole idea of possible worlds and entanglement. These are things that people play with.
Positioning and entanglement together. There's so much you could. Yes. Absolutely.
And now, in the computing environment, it's very possible. I mean, it's very. So I think getting people to think of what new problems we could solve that we haven't been able to because it's like we couldn't even imagine what these problems are because we haven't been thinking about them. What if we had a computer that allows us to do unlimited? What we could do. So the brainstorming, allowing people to say this is where we are, what we can do. These are the unexplained things, and also thinking of things that are not. There's a realm of not known, unexplained things.
Yes. Yeah, give them the freedom to explore it. Yes.
Yeah. So a little bit. And again, it sounds like science fictional, but actually it is very important because the world gets more and more dangerous every day, and to be able to predict, forecast, imagine what could be a problem, or imagine on the other side what could be a benefit. That was never imagined before. I think it would be of extreme benefit. It would put us on a new course in terms of humanity. And I think this is where we headed by putting together quantum computing with the IoT and artificial intelligence, combining this new what sometimes people talk about next society, so to speak.
Right.
Way, I think that's hopefully where we're headed.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, my friend.